Well, hello everybody, welcome back to Four Lights Wellness. My name is Omid, and today we're going to be talking about how to get to your goals faster and with a lot less stress, just by simply understanding how your nervous system and physiology actually works. So first thing I want to do is I want to introduce you to one of my friends over here, single-celled organism. I'm just going to refer to him as Frank for a while. Now, Frank is just chilling in a petri dish. He's not really doing a lot of stuff. He has a certain amount of energy inside of him, just basically by being alive. But he can't survive forever on the amount of energy he has inside of him. He does need food at some point in time. So unless there's food put in this petri dish, he's just going to sit there until he uses his available energy. Eventually he will just die because there's not enough energy left to repair and regenerate energy and that kind of stuff. But what happens if I take my little red chalk here, and in the petri dish I put this big negative stimulus. Scientists do this all the time. You can look up videos online. It's awesome. What happens, let's say it's an acid. Frank will now sense a threat to his survival in his environment. What he will do is he will run away from, and directly, because he doesn't have a brain, he's single cell, he will just say, threat, move away. That is basically going to be the same thing as me being pushed away from something. Not towards, but away. What happens if I, instead of doing that, I put a morsel of food in there? Well, now what's going to happen is Frank is going to say, oh, there's food in that direction. That's going to help me survive more. I can make more energy out of that food. So he will move towards that piece of food, or goal in this case. Here's the important part of this video, and why we're going to talk about the nervous system. The same amount of movement, the same amount of energy expended to move either away from the bad thing or towards the positive thing is the same. But the motivation behind it is very different. And the pathways that he's going to have to use hormonally, neurotransmitter-wise, is going to be very different. And really quick, it ain't just Frank that deals with this. You got 100 trillion Franks inside your body that are going to do the exact same thing based off either a positive stimulus or a goal, or a negative stimulus or fear or stress. So now let's get into the nervous system itself. We'll get back to Frank in a second. The peripheral nervous system, two different branches from the brain, peripheral and central, but don't worry about that for the course of this video. We get into the autonomic nervous system first on our journey through here. And just think about autonomic as the stuff that happens without cognitive thought, right? There's some theories out there that we can control this. I agree with them, but for the sake of this video, you don't have to control this. This is happening without your cognitive knowledge. The enteric nervous system, that's just the gut, right? Intestines, stomach, that kind of stuff. And think about it from gut to brain. The brain does have some awareness of this, but it's not required. It can be solo. Think about somebody in a coma, right? How do they stay alive for so long? Well, we're feeding them, yes, but it's being digested by itself. The brain does not need to be there for that to happen. Yay, that's a good thing, right? But now we get into the real big problem, and this is where one of my biggest pet peeves comes in, is because this sympathetic branch of the system, this fight or flight response, often gets confused with the stress response. They are not the same, people. They are not the same. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. The parasympathetic is the rest and repair, and it's basically Frank sitting there without either of those two stimulus there. He's just hanging out, conserving energy, because there's no new energy coming into the system. There's no new stimulus, positive or negative. Think about this from just sleep, right? Hopefully if you're sleeping, your parasympathetic system is on and it's helping you rest and repair hair, skin, nails, bones, muscles, all of this stuff that we need to kind of survive to be healthy. This sympathetic branch is the move branch. It's the use energy branch. And the trick with this is there's two different neurotransmitters or hormones that can actually move us. Let's get back to Frank in a second to understand that. In this example over here, when he's running away from the negative stimulus, he's going to use a lot more norepinephrine to run away. And in the positive stimulus, he's going to use a lot more acetylcholine. And just think about, norepinephrine, one of those stress hormones, adrenaline is often what it's called too, noradrenaline. And acetylcholine, acetyl just means activation, just using stuff to move. One's positive, one's negative. Think about it that way. But here's the important part. Acetylcholine is also used to rest and repair. And that's why Frank will die if he doesn't get more food at some point in time. It's why you will die if you don't eat for a long enough time. Because acetylcholine needs to be replenished with rest, with water, with hydration. These types of things need to come into the body for the body to make more of this. And likewise, if I'm in a sympathetic drive for too long, I might, if I'm not in a stressed out state, use too much acetylcholine, not eating enough food, not resting enough, and the cell will also die that way as well. And that's why I've got this little Tai Chi symbol here. We need the parasympathetic and the sympathetic to be balanced with each other. Now let's give just a real life, easy example to understand. I want to lose a bunch of weight. I go to the gym, I work out for 4 hours, I can't feel any of my muscles anymore, and the next day I'm so sore that I can barely move. Well, do I have enough acetylcholine left in the system to actually repair any of this? Am I able to even break down that much food, water, sleep enough to repair that? No. And if the acetylcholine was used in the first hour of the workout, you had 3 hours of ridiculously high levels of stress in your body. You're breaking down the tissue faster than it can be repaired, and it starts to lead to problems. It's where a really good personal trainer or a coach can come in to say, hey, this is the amount that your system can handle, and this is where you have to be on your rest, hydration, and food to repair the body enough to maintain this level of success that you're going to see. It's the same thing with Frank over here. If I'm constantly running away from things and wasting energy running, I'll starve myself to death because there's not enough repair stuff left in my cell, and I'll eventually break down. So that's really where this comes in from a cellular perspective. And again, you have 100 trillion of these in your body. So if we're constantly in a state of breakdown because of this stress response rather than a growth response, that's a big problem. This is where we start talking about goals, right? If I have a goal, I need to know what it's going to take me to get there, to move towards it, and what it's going to take to repair everything inside of here. I need both sides of this. And unless I have that goal, I'm constantly running away from things, wasting energy, hoping it's going to work. And then eventually I look up and 10 years later, I'm fatter, unhealthier, and more tired than ever. It's a lot of my clients where they show up. They've already tried a bunch of stuff. It just didn't work. So now let's get into the somatic branch. And this is really where the magic happens. I've developed a whole course on how to actually fix the nervous system from this. So pay attention. The senses themselves, think about things like the visual system, the auditory system, the gustatory system, the feeling system, things like that. Well, those are programmable, right? We come into this world, we have no idea what's what. Our eyes don't barely work. And over time, they start to get programmed as we're exposed to different things. And if our programming or our exposure is negative, even not just coming into the world, but how about news these days? You watch the news, your senses start to get programmed by themselves to see the world as a threat. We are constantly putting in more and more of this stuff in here. And let's say, for example, instead of the pain stimulus being there, my senses are telling me there's a problem here, and a problem here, and a problem here, and a problem here. I am going to eventually be pushed that direction. But my goal is over there. That's a problem because now you mentally in the other part of the system want to go that way, but there's more information from the senses driving us away from our goals actively. It's great for survival, but it's not great for being happy. It's not great for growing and thriving in the world. The muscles themselves. How many people don't work out and then wonder why they can't get to their goals, right? Well, the body itself is actually saying, hey, this goal is too far away. I won't make it there. So I'll constantly see everybody else on TikTok and Instagram, kind of bragging about what all this stuff they're achieving is, but I can't get off the couch. And the cells just starts dying because it actually can't even reach the positive stimulus. We've got to get the muscles themselves back into a state where they can actually move again to get more functional balance again. And you'd be surprised, I've said this time and time again, how quickly the physiology changes the psychology because we're more capable. And that's where we get into this word responsibility, the ability to respond. It's really hard to live a happy, healthy life when your body can't actually do what you want it to, when you're constantly sensing everything in your environment as a threat. Eventually, if it's long enough, you start to get into this learned helplessness response where you'll just sit there, you'll say, I got a certain amount of energy. I can pick up the remote. That's about it. And I'll just hang out. And it just starts to lead to this lethargic, apathetic sort of state. And it's no fun. I've been there myself. It's awful. So the fastest way to change any of this stuff is to go after this, not the autonomic. The autonomic's a little harder to do. If you do this enough, you will actually start to change the pathways and strengthen your acetylcholine pathway and less stress pathway. And the more and more and more often you do it, it's just kind of like the body forgets how to do this until it's just an acute stress. Lion jumps out at you, mugger starts to jump out at you, something like that. You run, you fight. But then to get to your goals, you just start going after the easier pathways, the one that doesn't stress you out as much. So last thing I'm going to talk about in this video is if you don't have goals clearly set in your life, that's number one. Very, very first step in my system is, what's your dream? What are your objectives? What are your goals? What is the thing that you really are here to do? What is the thing that you love and makes you love yourself and other people more? And if you don't have that, reach out in a comment below or email me at fourlightswellness.com is the website address. You can just drop me an email there. Join up for the newsletter. I got a ton of information that comes out there. Like I said, I've got an entire course about how to actually fix this. Really easy exercises specifically with people that have a lot of stress in their lives, even if it's from trauma or not. It's a trauma-based course, but this will help you out a ton either way. Program all of your cells, all of them, to go more towards your goals. And if you don't have clearly defined goals, it's the first place to start, okay? That's it for this video. I hope this information is very helpful to you guys. As always, have a happy and healthy rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.